You may be surprised to learn that in the state of California, someone can get a domestic violence restraining order against you even if they don't even claim that you were physically violent. Now, when you're going into one of these restraining order hearings, one of the most important things to know is what the judge is looking for. What is the judge listening for? What does the judge want to hear? So if you go into one of these restraining order hearings thinking, well, they're not even saying that I was physically violent, of course I'm going to win, then you may be in for an unpleasant surprise. So in this video, we will be talking about those 5 different types of non-violent conduct that do count as domestic violence in California for restraining orders. My name is Veronica. I am a domestic violence restraining order defense attorney here in California. I'm also the creator of a course in which I teach you everything that you need to know from start to finish on how to represent yourself at a restraining order hearing and win. And if that is something you're interested in, and it seems like you probably are if you're watching this video, make sure that you go and get your free first class in the course. You can find that in the description box down below. Okay, so let's jump right in. Let's talk about the 5 different types of non-physically violent conduct that still count as violence for the purposes of a domestic violence restraining order. Number 1, stalking is defined as willfully, repeatedly, and maliciously harassing someone or following them, plus making a credible threat, meaning that a reasonable person in the petitioner's position would feel fearful for his or her safety or the safety of his or her immediate family. For example, let's say that the petitioner alleges that the respondent has been showing up every place that she goes, showing up at her coffee shop in the morning, showing up outside of her workplace, showing up outside of her home. And she alleges that the respondent has sent her texts like, "Be careful out there," or "I saw you at the park today. Are you sure that you should be there alone?" And she alleges that because of all of that, she was concerned for her own safety. That probably would count as stalking. Now remember though, there is the willfully component here. You have to do this intentionally. If you happen to live nearby the petitioner and when you go for coffee in the morning, well, the neighborhood coffee shop is the same one that she goes to. Maybe you work in the same workplace or nearby, and hey, you were going for a walk, you went past the park, it was dusk, and you really thought, seeing the petitioner, hey, I'm not sure if she should be out here alone, and that's why you sent those texts, and that's why you were showing up at those places. You're not intentionally trying to scare her, and you're not intentionally showing up where she is. Number 2, harassing, and this can be in person, this can be over the phone, social media, text message, basically any sort of contact that you can imagine. For example, the petitioner could allege that the respondent has repeatedly text messaged her multiple times per day despite her asking her not to. She's tried blocking him, but he just gets a different number and keeps texting her. She claims that he also even called her workplace. Now, one of the questions that I'm sure you have here, if you're thinking about this example, is, well, if the respondent is supposedly texting from other numbers, how can we even say that it is the respondent? How do we know? It's important to keep in mind, though, for domestic violence restraining order hearings, the judge only has to believe the petitioner slightly more than 50% in order to grant the restraining order. So if you're going in there saying she can't prove that it was me, she might be able to the satisfaction of the judge. Maybe not 100%, maybe not beyond a reasonable doubt like you need in criminal cases. If, for example, you are saying the same things, maybe you make the same grammatical mistakes, maybe immediately after she blocks you, there's a message from an unknown number saying, "Why did you block me?" or "You better stop blocking me." Number 3, destroying personal property. For example, if the petitioner alleges that you intentionally broke her laptop, then that could meet the definition of domestic violence in California. Of course, it could have been an accident. Maybe you were really upset and you were very animated, and while swinging your arm, while making your point, you accidentally hit the laptop, causing it to fall on the ground and break. That would not be domestic violence. This has to be something that is intentional. Number 4, disturbing the other person's peace. This refers to intentionally destroying the other person's mental or emotional calm. Now, as you can see, that's subjective. That is a little bit tricky here. One example of this is if the petitioner has to wake up early in the morning for work. The respondent has a different schedule or isn't working right now. The respondent suspects the petitioner of cheating on him, so all night long he makes as much noise as he possibly can in the home. He tries to talk to her, he turns on the lights, and does this not just one night, but repeatedly, knowing that she has to wake up early, and in fact intentionally doing this to punish her because of his suspicions. This could be considered disturbing someone's peace. Now again, this is subjective. This could be something that is accidental. This could also be something that's not repeated. It's not every night. It's not most nights. It's not this repeated thing. If the respondent doesn't mean to disturb the peace of the petitioner, that's not why they're doing that, then that would not count as disturbing the other person's peace. But again, this is going to come down to who the judge believes slightly more than 50%. And a lot of times it's going to come down to demeanor. Number 5, coercive control. Coercive control is a pattern of behavior that interferes with your free will and your personal liberty. Coercive control actually does fall in the category of disturbing someone's peace, but because it has its own definition and because it deserves its own example, I'm giving it its own little separate number here. So an example of coercive control could be if the petitioner alleges that the respondent tries to keep her away from her family and friends, monitors her movement, checks her phone records, and has even threatened to divulge personal information about her if she does not comply with his wishes. That would fall into the category of coercive control. And again, there's a spectrum of this sort of behavior here. A lot of couples track each other on Find Friends or Google Maps, so you can see where your significant other is, but it's not because you're trying to control them. You both decided for convenience, safety reasons, whatever, that you are going to both follow one another. If coercive control is the type of domestic violence that is alleged, then the judge is probably going to be looking at the entire situation to see, is this a situation where you are really trying to isolate this person? You're watching everything that they do. You're just keeping them under your thumb. I hope you found this video helpful. And look, again, if you do have a restraining order coming up and you are thinking about representing yourself, or unfortunately due to finances, you don't really have a choice but to represent yourself, then I do encourage you, instead of scrolling through YouTube, binge watching, hoping to find the answers, at least get your free first class in Defeat the DVRO. One of the problems with learning something new is that you don't know what you don't know. So you could watch a ton of videos on YouTube and get some information, but you won't know that, hey, maybe I missed this entire other big piece of information that really is important for me to win my hearing. So that is what I teach you in the course. Go get your free first class. You literally have nothing to lose. And if you did find the video helpful, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell.